This is the Voice Caddie Laser Fit, and in some ways, it's the best golf rangefinder under $200. And in other ways, well, it's not. Let's jump into the review. My name is Sean Ogle, I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking 80, where we talk about cool golf products and cool golf courses. Quick disclaimer, if you click any of the links below and you decide to buy this product or any of the other products I mentioned, I will get a commission. I do not care if you buy any of these products. My whole goal here at Breaking 80 is to just help you find the right products for you. So if you think that makes me biased, totally understand. Just go to voicecaddie.com, type it into your browser. You can bypass all of those links and no hard feelings. But I'm going to give you my very honest opinion on this, and I hope you find it helpful. So here's the thing about rangefinders under $200. They all make trade-offs. Some pretty good build quality, accuracy, not quite there. Some great accuracy, but the display's not very good. Others, they sacrifice on build quality. Well, the Voice Caddie Laser Fit is no different, and we're going to talk about the trade-offs it makes in just a second, but first, let's talk about my first impressions of this device. Now, having reviewed over 40 rangefinders over the last few years, it's safe to say I've got a pretty good idea of well, this market and what makes a good rangefinder versus a bad one. And out of the box, the first surprise I had about this was just how tiny it is. Look at this little guy. It was like way smaller than I expected it to be. This is the tiniest rangefinder I think I have ever used, just barely edging out the Tech Clear, which is one of the other models I would consider at under $200, but we'll talk about comparisons later on. The packaging for this is totally fine. It's exactly what you would expect from a $200 rangefinder. It's nothing fancy, it's got all the essentials, and I don't think anyone's going to complain about it. One thing that is worth noting is the case it comes with is just a standard canvas rangefinder case. If you've seen other higher end Voice Caddie rangefinders like the SL3 or the TL1, then you would have seen their bright white and red leather rangefinder pouch that in some ways sets it apart from other brands and looks really good, and in some ways is just gonna be a little over the top for most people. So this, it's right down the middle. I don't think anybody's gonna complain about it, and I think overall, that's a good thing. The box also comes with a quick start instruction manual and a USB-C cord, which we're gonna get to. When it comes to the unit itself, aside from being small, I gotta say, it looks really nice. I like the silver and beige motif. It's got some nice texture on the underside here, which I think looks really good. But all that to say, it doesn't feel super high quality. This does not feel like a robust, overbuilt, waterproof rangefinder. In fact, I would say it's probably on the lower end of the build quality spectrum, at least in terms of how it feels. The fact it's so small and lightweight, I think contributes to that, but overall it just doesn't feel quite as beefy as most other rangefinders I've tested. So in the beginning of this, we talked about compromises, and that's going to be the first major compromise you're going to see with this. It's not fully waterproof, it's not robust, it's not built like a tank. I feel like if you were to like drop this hard on a cart path, it would not be good for this. Whereas other rangefinders, I feel like you can go bring and they'll be totally fine. That's definitely a drawback here, but if you're a minimalist and you like light things, you're really gonna like this. It's so small and cute. Now let's talk about performance, and fortunately, that's one of the areas where this shines. The 6X optics are surprisingly good for a sub $200 product. Overall, everything is nice and crisp and clear, and even more than that is this has a dual color LED display. As I've mentioned in some of my other rangefinder reviews, normally when there's a product under $200 that has that backlit LED display, it's not a good thing. It tends to be washed out and it overall hurts the optical quality of the device. This one, on the other hand, I'm pretty surprised by the fact that red LED actually looks really good and is more of a benefit than a detractor, as I've seen with other budget models. The only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't give you the option to choose if you want black or that red LED. It does it automatically based on the conditions and the lighting that you're currently in. Fortunately, it overall works really well. That was one of my knocks on the Cobalt Q4, is even though that's a great rangefinder, I didn't feel like it always adjusted the display as well as I would have liked it to at the time I would like it to. And with this one, it never really bothered me or got in the way very much. So at a product that retails for $199, that's a big compliment. God, the display on this really is surprisingly good. I gotta say, for this price, I'm impressed. I also feel like I've buried the lead a little bit because this device does something almost no other rangefinder can do, and that is triangulation. So the Caddie Talk Cube came out a couple years ago, and it became famous for the fact it can do triangulation. So if you're playing a round of golf that's cart path only, you're on the golf cart, you can shoot the ball, then you can shoot the flag, and it will give you that distance between the 2 points. So you can get the distance without having to walk out to the middle of the fairway, shoot it, walk back, get your clubs, walk back out. Super convenient, right? Well, this can do that too, and it does it for over $100 less than the Cube. One thing I want to point out is I've only spent about 15 minutes with the Cube, so I have used it, but I haven't used it a ton. So some of what I'm about to say is based on my early findings. It's not after an in-depth review of that product. Some people have asked the question, is this a Caddie Talk Cube that's a fraction of the price? And the answer is kind of. The Cube is a higher end product. It feels higher end, it looks higher end, it has a better display, it's got the built-in screen on the outside of it, and the triangulation works really well. However, when it comes to ease of use, I actually prefer the triangulation feature on this. Like, it's kind of foolproof. It's very easy to use, and from the first time I picked it up, I was able to be like, okay, do that, there's my number. It worked really well, where I felt like there was a little bit of a learning curve with the Cube. Again, the Cube is a higher end product at a higher price point, but for that main selling point, that feature that they've really leaned into, I feel like this does it just as well and does it in a way that's a little more user-friendly. Hey, real quick, is this helpful, but you're still not totally sure if this is the right rangefinder for you? Go take our 30-second quiz. It's linked below. All you're gonna do is answer a few questions. You're gonna tell me exactly what you're looking for, and I'm going to make my best recommendation based on your needs. I think you're gonna find it super valuable, and you can go do it right now while you're watching the rest of this video. I hope it helps. Back to the video. When it comes to accuracy, this is mostly spot on. I will say that there's times it took me a couple shots to get it to lock onto the flag properly. I think part of that is due to the fact it is so small and so light, so it's a little bit easier to just kind of do this with. But 70% of the time I hit it right away, and the other 30% of the time, after just shooting it 2 or 3 times, I got it. So accuracy, reliability, for the most part, I don't think it's an issue. Yes, it's not quite as fast and reliable and accurate as some of the more expensive devices, but it's among the best I have used under $200, and I think for most people, you're not really going to notice an issue with it. That being said, that is one of the downsides of this, is because it is so lightweight, is for some people, especially if you have shaky hands or if you're a little bit older, you might find it's a little bit more cumbersome to use. It's definitely smaller than what I personally prefer. I like having one that's a little bit bigger, a little bit beefier, a little bit heavier. It just feels more robust and feels a little bit more stable. But again, at this price, with these features and the fact it does everything pretty well, that's one of the trade-offs that you have to decide if it's worth it. And I think for a lot of people, the trade-off is going to be worth it. There's a couple other downsides I want to mention. The first is this is kind of marketed as a cart path device. So the fact it doesn't have a built-in magnet to use on a cart is kind of frustrating. It's kind of a pain, and as far as I know, they don't sell an aftermarket case you could put on this that does have a magnet built in. The Cube we mentioned earlier, it doesn't have a magnet built in, but they do sell an external magnetic case that you can use instead. If you're a walking golfer or a minimalist golfer and you like the fact this is small and you don't care about the triangulation feature, then no big deal. And honestly, it's not a big deal to just put this in the cup holder, but I did test it out on a cart for one round, and I did miss being able to just put it there, so it was easy to grab all the time. Not the end of the world, but something that's worth mentioning. The other downside may or may not matter to you, but it's kind of an issue for me, and that's this right here. That's a USB-C charging port because it has a built-in rechargeable battery. And the battery is rated for 8 hours, which on the surface, you're like, 8 hours, that doesn't seem very much. But then you look at it and you're like, how long are you actually using the rangefinder during any given round? 5 or 10 minutes maybe? So when you look at it that way, the battery life is probably good for many rounds. Unfortunately, I don't have any long-term data, and I haven't gotten a sense of if it's good for 10 rounds or 20 rounds or 30 rounds, but I've played 3 rounds with it so far. Battery life has not been an issue. So if it really is 8 hours of in-use time, I think for most people, that's going to be plenty. The issue for me is I have enough things to charge. I'm a forgetful person, so eventually I'm just gonna be leaving this in my bag. I'm going to forget to charge it, and it's not going to work, and that's going to frustrate me at the time. So the question is, should you buy it? Honestly, if you're in the market for a rangefinder under $200, I think this is one of the best ones you can get. There are a couple I've mentioned in previous videos. If you can find a Precision Pro NX9, that's one that is a little bit bigger, it does feel a little more robust, has slightly better build quality. That's one that I would definitely look at as well. The Tech Clear is another one that's a compact rangefinder that also feels a little bit more robust, and like the build quality is a little bit better than this one. That being said, the optics on this are as good as any of those. This is also the only one out of those that has that dual color LED display, and it works pretty well. And the biggest feature is it has that triangulation function that pretty much no other product on the market has, save for a couple niche rangefinders. At a retail price of $199, I think it's absolutely a buy. If you had told me to use this for a couple rounds and guess the price, I would have guessed it'd be $249, based on that triangulation feature and the fact that it's pretty solid. The fact they sell it for $199 really makes it a pretty killer deal, and even better than that is they're being really aggressive with their pricing. So with some of their partners, they are offering a price of $180. So if you click the link below, you'll get a special Breaking 80 landing page where you can get it for 180 bucks. And at that price, it very clearly is one of the best rangefinders under $200. Is it the best? I'm not going to say it's the best because I think it really comes down to what your needs are and which trade-offs you are willing to make. So hopefully I've covered what those trade-offs are and also given you a couple other options to consider if this device does not feel like the right one for you. But overall, I've been really impressed with this and generally really impressed with what Voice Caddie is doing in general. Even though I feel like they fly under the radar when compared to a lot of bigger golf brands, they consistently put out high quality products, and especially this year, they're doing it prices that are extremely competitive. If you're willing to spend a little bit more for and you don't care about that triangulation feature, I would probably upgrade to the TL1, which they're selling for $280 right now, which is quite a bit more money, but considering last year they were selling it for $450, even at that price point, I said it was one of the best rangefinders out there. At $280, it is very clearly the best rangefinder under $300 in my mind. And aside from the lack of triangulation, I think it's better than this in just about every way. Not to say this is bad, that's just a really solid offering. But all that to say, this is great. If you get it at $180, it's a great buy. And especially if you like that triangulation feature, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. With that, my name's Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking 80, where we talk about cool golf products and cool golf courses. If you're still unsure this is the right rangefinder for you, go check out my best rangefinders video that you can find right here. And also, there's a 30-second quiz where you can tell me what you were looking for in a rangefinder, and I'm going to make my best recommendation based on your needs. So be sure to go check that out, and I will see you on the next video.